Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Welcome. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation criticized the Trudeau government on millions of taxpayers' dollars that were spent on film and music festivals. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says the NDP is irrelevant now that the Bloc Québécois will keep the Trudeau Liberals in power. And the Lethbridge hurricane season begins on Friday. BCN's Landon Hickok will have a preview on what we can expect from the Canes this season.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre blasted NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, saying Singh refused at least 40 times to answer whether he would vote non-confidence in Trudeau to cause a carbon election. He also says now that the Bloc has announced that it will keep Trudeau in power, the NDP is simply irrelevant.
The NDP leader sold out Canadians to sign on to a costly coalition that doubled the debt, doubled the housing costs, sent 2 million people to food banks and 1,800 tent encampments. He voted 24 times for the carbon tax. And since he did his dramatic video, he has refused to answer 40 times whether he'd vote non-confidence. Now that he knows that the Bloc is going to keep the Liberals in power, he'll stand up and claim that he's voting against. Mr. Speaker, why won't the NDP stand up when it counts so that we can end this costly coalition and elect a common-sense government?
Quebec Premier François Legault wants to see an early federal election. He says the Bloc should vote to support the expected Conservative non-confidence motion against Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's minority government next week to topple the government and trigger an election. But Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet says he will not topple the Liberals, saying he will use his own judgment on how to best serve Quebecers.
I never support Liberals. Help me God. I go against the Conservatives on a vote that is only about Pierre Poilievre and his huge ambition for himself. I support the interests of Quebecers, if those interests are also good for Canadians. So far, so good. And I also support the idea of independence for Quebec.
Treasury Board President Anita Nand was sworn in as our country's new federal transport minister. She'll take on the additional role after Pablo Rodriguez resigned from cabinet to run for the Quebec Liberal leadership. Rodriguez announced earlier on Thursday that he'll be leaving the federal Liberal caucus and will sit as an independent MP until January. He also stepped down as the government's Quebec lieutenant. It's a role that Public Services and Procurement Minister Jean-Yves Duclos will take on. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is raising the alarm over $2.7 million that was spent by the federal government on high-profile international film and music festivals. Now, to chat about this in more detail is Franco Terrazzano, Federal Director of the CTF, who joins us from Ottawa. Franco, where did our bureaucrats go?
This is crazy, right? The federal government spending $2.7 million on international film and music festivals. Some of those festivals include the Oscars. There was a film festival in France, a film festival in Germany. There was South by Southwest in Texas and Australia. And the total spending coming into $2.7 million. And look, these events occurred over 16 months. So an average of $175,000 a month in taxpayers' money is what the federal government spent so people could party it up at these international film and music festivals. And you know what? I can't believe this has to be said, but like, come on. The government should not be blowing millions of taxpayers' money on these film and music events, especially when the government is more than $1 trillion in debt and there are a record number of Canadians lining up at food banks.
So what was the reasoning by federal government officials for attending all of these festivals? Was it to make Canada an attractive destination for future films and concerts? You know, to promote our country to producers.
You know what? There really is no good defense on this, right? If people want to promote Canadian artists, people can do it with their own money, and people do it with their own money, right? The government doesn't need to take money from taxpayers to the tune of $2.7 million hosting receptions and parties at international destinations. Like, just look at some of the spending here, right? There was $35,000 on plant and furniture rentals for a Canada House event. There was $5,000 spent on DJ and animation services. There was $15,000 spent on a social media champion, whatever that is. And then at the Germany Festival, for example, rentals for a Canada pavilion came in at about $74,000. So what does this spending show? This spending shows that the government clearly doesn't respect how hard Canadians work for the money they earn and the taxes they pay.
Thanks so much, Franco. That was Franco Terrazzano, Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, joining us from Ottawa. The mayor of Fort Saskatchewan, which is located northeast of Edmonton, apologized for comments she made recently about feral cats. Gail Catchers said in the old days, when she was growing up on the farm, you dealt with wild cats by tossing them in a bag and throwing them into a river. Needless to say, this created a lot of rage online.
You know, when it comes to feral cats, it would be cruel to say, but it would be interesting that if people could deal with them themselves, like I'm going to say in the old days when you lived on the farm. Now be careful, because when you lived on the farm, if there was cats, they threw them in a bag and threw them in the river, or they just put them on the exhaust pipes. So that's how they... It's okay. I grew up on a farm. I knew what happened back then, and there wasn't a lot of emotion tied to it. People just dealt with cats that showed up unwanted. So for all the city people, that's the reality of living on a farm. Just FYI. And I hope that doesn't get captured anywhere as being the mean mayor. So anyway, I would be okay with status quo, but I think there are options if they are caught and can't be dealt with. So.
Wow. The Calgary International Film Festival kicked off on Thursday. Organizers received a nice gift of around $90,000 from the province over the next couple of years in support of their event. Government officials say since January of this year, the Alberta-made production grant has invested around $1 million to support 11 different productions. Arts Minister Tanya Furr says it is important to roll out the red carpet and support a number of Alberta-made productions.
Our investments are helping to develop in-demand Alberta talent and content as the film and television industry continues to expand and grow in our province. That is why our government is proud to support the local media industry through the Alberta-made Screen Industries program and events like the Calgary International Film Festival. With grants to local filmmakers and important industry events, we're helping to meet the growing demand for a skilled workforce and bringing more of Alberta's stories to the screen.
Minister Furr adds that for every dollar the province invests, the film and television industry generates $4, which is put back into the Alberta economy. The Alberta government will be providing $149 million in financial aid to help Jasper recover and rebuild following a devastating wildfire this summer that wiped out about a third of the town. Officials say the funding will be provided through the province's Disaster Recovery Program. It provides financial help for uninsurable losses or damage resulting from a disaster. In a statement, Public Safety and Emergency Services Minister Mike Ellis had this to say: "We're committed to providing the necessary support for recovery in Jasper and all Alberta communities affected by wildfire this year. This funding will cover critical areas of need, from uninsurable infrastructure damage to emergency operations costs, ensuring communities can recover swiftly and safely." Government officials say eligible expenses are cost shared, whereby the province kicks in with 90% of total costs. The municipal share of 10% is deducted from their payment, so no out-of-pocket costs will be incurred. The UCP recently held a forum where party members had the opportunity to ask the three nominees of Lethbridge West why they should become the next candidate for that riding. The nominees are John Middleton Hope, Aaron Leclerc, and Shauna Gruninger. Now, the winner announced on September 23rd will go up against the NDP candidate, who is Rob Miyashiro. And if there's no need to go to a second round following the vote by party members, the results will be known Monday at 10 p.m. The president of the UCP Lethbridge West Constituency Association, Davey Wiegers, says the nominees were happy to answer a wide range of questions at the recent forum.
We got through probably 2/3-ish of all the questions submitted by by the members, and we had a few from the LCNC that were submitted as well to speak to particular issues. So the nomination election is happening on Monday, the 23rd. The polls open at 2 p.m. and close at 8 p.m. I would encourage everybody to come out, because the person that becomes your candidate will more than likely be the next MLA for Lethbridge West.
Premier Daniel Smith has until January the 1st to call a by-election for the Lethbridge West riding. Well, it was a beautiful day here in Lethbridge, sunshine mixed with clouds and hovering around 20 to 22 degrees. Jeanette Rocher is now with an early look at the forecast. Jeanette, it appears as though cooler temperatures and rain may be on the way fairly soon.
Yeah, but they won't stick around long. We're still looking at a pretty decent weekend ahead of us. Just Friday looking a little soggy with that 60% a chance of showers. Also some winds looking up to 20 kilometers per hour, 20 gusting to 40K, and only a high of 14 degrees, which kind of brings us down a little lower than what we've been used to lately. But once we get into Friday night, things are going to clear up right in time for a nice, beautiful, sunny weekend. And I'll be back later in the show to give you all those details.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeanette. A recent study was done examining the most expensive universities for Canadian undergraduate tuition. The research done by the folks with LuckyDays.com says Trinity Western in British Columbia was the costliest at $22,260. Number 2 on the list was Mount Allison University in New Brunswick at $10,015, less than half. Another BC university came in at number 3, which is Royal Roads University in Colwood at $92.71. Acadia University in Nova Scotia was number 4 at $87.71, and rounding out the top 5 was St. Francis Xavier, also Nova Scotia, at $8,665. 3 Alberta universities made the top 20. They're the University of Calgary at number 16 at $69.61, the U of A in Edmonton at number 17 at $68.75, and the University of Lethbridge coming in at number 19 at $6,429 tuition dollars for Canadian undergrads. Conor Gallagher and his wife Ashley are like most North American couples. They work hard and spend a lot of quality time raising their family. Now, the only difference with this family is that they have 16 children. Gallagher wrote a book discussing the challenges of having such a large family called Well-Ordered Family. I chatted with him about how expensive it must be raising a family that size. He says, with planning, you can make it work.
In terms of the money, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's been some really horrific reports that I have serious problems with about how much it costs to raise kids in today's world. And I think that's coming from a very kind of globalist, far-leaning left agenda saying you can't afford kids because it costs so much to raise them. And I just know that that's just false on so many levels. Yeah, kids are expensive. I'm not saying they're not, but the typical family can make some sacrifices, can live a life more conducive to a larger family, and they make it work.
Just wait till all of those kids are in university or college, then it will be expensive. Make sure you catch the full interview with author, business owner, and busy dad Conor Gallagher and myself coming up later in our broadcast. The Lethbridge Hurricanes of the Western Hockey League have wrapped up their preseason and are preparing for their home opener on Friday night, 7 p.m. against the Edmonton Oil Kings. As BCN's Landon Hickok explains now, there's a lot of excitement in the locker room in anticipation of another new season.
The Lethbridge Hurricanes are back and revamping for the new season ahead. The Canes are coming straight off last season off of a first-round sweep to the Swift Current Broncos. The Hurricanes finished their preseason 2-2 last weekend and are prepared to begin their new season with fresh new additions with a fresh new mentality.
Guys are energized, ready to go. I mean, you know, for me, it's going into my second home opener, and that's always exciting. But, you know, in the locker room, everybody's excited, and that's kind of the, you know, the spot we're in, and you know, it should be fun.
The boys are getting to know each other more. You know, we work together every day at practice, work on the little things, and then, yeah, we just built the chemistry up, and it's been good. We'll get better as it goes on, but just knowing what we're doing in our systems right off the bat, and then just go from there.
With NHL rookie camps wrapped up and training camps now underway, players across the WHL either are returning to their respective teams to begin the season or earning a shot on an opening night roster spot in the big league. 5 Hurricanes this year were sent to rookie camps across 5 different NHL teams, including team leader in points last season, Miguel Marquez with Nashville. This will be Bill Peters' second full year as Hurricanes head coach. The former Calgary Flames head coach is coming off last year with a 33-28 record, good enough for 7th place in the Eastern Conference. He says this season, he's most excited for the internal growth opportunities within his team.
It's tight. It's a real hard-working group, and a little bit of iron sharpens iron mentality, and they push each other hard and hold each other accountable. So I really like the group. I like the intensity of the group and the direction that it's headed. They got better as the preseason went along. Definitely Game 3 was, we liked Game 3 in spurts, and then our last game in Medicine Hat, I thought the young guys found a way to contribute in a positive way. It's a real simple roster at this time. There's not a lot of roster decisions. We're 13-6-2, and we'd like to get everybody in on the weekend, whether it's at home or in Red Deer.
If you're tuning into the Hurricanes this season, factors to watch for that the team says are keys for their success are the team's size, speed, and special teams, all which will be put into action on Friday night as they face a rebuilding Edmonton Oil Kings squad, which also has a number of hungry young players of their own.
Looking for another exciting hurricane season coming up here. Should be a lot of fun. The first outdoor multi-purpose sports facility is ready for the community to use here in Lethbridge. City officials are excited about this new building located at Legacy Park. It's there that locals can participate in various sports such as street hockey, lacrosse, and roller derby. Lethbridge Mayor Blaine Hagan says a facility like this has been needed for quite some time.
The community did reach out. We didn't have an outdoor sports court. And so this will definitely, we'd love to have 2, 3, 4, 5 of these, right? However, it's a great start, and it's something that many different recreational groups can use well into the future. While it's not suited for this skateboarding and biking, it is something that's going to have many different uses here. The project was part of our capital improvement plan from 2022 to 2031. And won't accommodate ice during the winter months, because we have heard that, and just wanted to touch a little bit on that. With our Chinooks, being a hockey player, I absolutely love outdoor skating and outdoor hockey, but it's just not conducive to the climate that we're in. So although we would love to have one, it's difficult. We do have a smaller court in downtown on Festival Square that is available for the wintertime. There's focus on other areas of the community. We want everyone to understand that we're very fair with where we put these different facilities.
I think it's an opportunity for cost savings, for one, and provide very different options for different people. It's an opportunity to showcase different sports and maybe an opportunity to gain traction for some of these activities in the community and meet some other people and learn some new skills along the way. If you want to book the space, it would cost $25 per hour, and you can go on to leisure.lethbridge.ca or call 311.
City officials say the space will be available for bookings to host group parties, games, and skills development camps beginning next summer. Well, it's a great day for getting outside today, maybe doing some rollerblading or skateboarding, enjoying some of the sunshine. We were slightly above our seasonal high, which is about 19 degrees. And if you like cooler weather, though, good news, some of it's on the way. Full weather details are coming up. What a beautiful day here in Lethbridge. A great day for taking your e-bike or scooter along Henderson Lake. Gorgeous day for it. Jeanette Rocher is in now with a full look at the weather picture. Jeanette, we may, however, want to take a raincoat if we're taking out our bikes on Friday.
Well, very true. In fact, I'd say save your biking until the weekend because we'll be much drier than we are seeing. That 60% chance of showers on Friday, only a high of 14 degrees. Once we get into Saturday, though, we're seeing clear skies, 18 for the high, although we have to 22 again on Sunday. Very lovely. Mix of sun and cloud. Sunshine on Monday, high of 21 degrees. And then we're seeing some relatively higher than usual temperatures for this time of year as we get into that last week of September. So high 27 Tuesday, 29 on Wednesday. It's going to feel like July all over again. Can't wait for that. Average high for this time of year, 18 degrees. Average low 4. Record high on this day was 32 degrees happening back in 2009. Record low on this day was in 1957. It happened to be -5 that day. That is very chilly for this time of year. 7:14, that's when the sun rose this morning. Sun set this evening at 7:34 p.m. So we're seeing 4 minutes less daylight today than we saw yesterday. So we're seeing 12 hours, 19 minutes. There you go. Okay, so Victoria, we're seeing clearing skies in the morning. 17 for the high, 14 though where the winds blow onshore. 18 for the high in Vancouver, seeing clearing skies by the afternoon. Edmonton, showers up to 40k winds there, high of 12 degrees. 12 also the high in Calgary tomorrow, very cool for this time of year, seeing a 60% chance of showers and 20 to 40k winds there as well. Also a 60% chance of showers expected tomorrow in Saskatoon, high of 14 degrees. 18 for the high in Regina, with clear skies, mainly cloudy skies tomorrow in Winnipeg, high of 22. Could see a late day shower there as well, and up to 50k winds, so 30 gusting to 50k there in Winnipeg. Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. Look at these temperatures and look at that sky. Nice blue sky, lots of sunshine happening there. 26 the high in Toronto, 27 for both Ottawa and Montreal. Also, humidex low 30s for those cities. Looking at humidexes of 31 and 32 over the next several days there. So still feeling like summer in central Canada. On the east coast though, 22 for the high in Fredericton, 20 is the expected high tomorrow in Halifax. Looking at a 30% chance of showers there. Mix of sun and cloud that is in Charlottetown, high of 21. 15 for the high in St. John's, and a 60% chance of showers there. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
Maple Leaf Foods is claiming it is innocent in an alleged bread price fixing scheme ahead of a hearing to determine whether it will be added to an ongoing class action lawsuit. Maple Leaf says in a statement that any claims it participated in the alleged conspiracy are false. Maple Leaf was not included in a class action lawsuit that was originally certified in an Ontario court back in 2021 against several grocery retailers and other food companies. The plaintiffs, however, are set to argue in a hearing that Maple Leaf should be added as a defendant in the lawsuit because of its ownership of Canada Bread. Canada Bread was fined by the Bureau in 2023 after admitting to multiple counts of price fixing. Canada Bread has argued as part of the class action lawsuit that Maple Leaf should shoulder the blame instead. Airlines could soon be charged millions of dollars for resolved passenger complaints as part of a new fee proposal by Canada's transportation regulator. The Canadian Transportation Agency launched a one-month consultation on the proposed reforms that would include a $790 charge to airlines for each customer complaint resolved by the regulator. The agency estimates it will be able to close more than 22,600 air travel complaints each year. That translates to roughly $17.9 million in fees charged to the airlines. Passenger rights advocate Gabor Lukács says the measure is too little too late and fails to serve as an adequate deterrent to rule breaking by the airlines. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 273 points on the day to finish at 23,866. The Dow was up 522 points to 42,025. The S&P 500 was up 95 on the day to 5713, and the Nasdaq was up 440 points to 18,013. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $1.04 to $71.95 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 7 cents to $2.35 US. Gold was up $27.48 on the day to $25.8665 US an ounce, and silver was up 71 cents to $30.78 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.76 per bushel, barley's at $6.10, canola's at $13.25, and corn is at $7.39 per bushel. Live cattle October contract was down $1.30 to $183.15. Feeder cattle were up $2.45 to $245.28, and lean hogs were up 20 cents to $82.25. That again is for the October contract. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 73.80 US. Recapping one of our top stories, the Alberta government will be providing $149 million in financial aid to help Jasper recover and rebuild following a devastating wildfire this summer that wiped out about a third of the town. Officials say the funding will be provided through the province's disaster recovery program. It provides financial help for uninsurable losses or damage resulting from a disaster. Coming up, we're going to chat with a man who has 16 children. That's right, 16 kids. Businessman, author, and busy daddy Conor Gallagher will discuss some of the challenges he and his wife Ashley have had raising those 16 kids. It's a colorful interview you won't want to miss. When you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. Also, be sure to visit our website anytime to check out a number of stories and interviews. You know, today's families often feel anxious and frustrated by the overwhelming chaos of society. How can we as parents bring order to our family? Today's guest may have a few answers for us. Joining us from Charlotte, North Carolina is Conor Gallagher. He and his wife Ashley are parents to 16 children. That's right, that's not a typo, 16 kids. Conor also runs several businesses, and he's the executive director of the Benedict Leadership Institute at Belmont Abbey College. He's also author of Well-Ordered Family. Conor, you are a very busy guy. Good to have you with us today.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And I think I'm only busy when I'm doing my own will, but if I'm doing what God wants me to do, he makes time for everything I need to get done. So that's how I like to talk about busyness, you know.
Now, you and your wife have 16 kids. I mean, I've got 2 kids. That was more than enough for my wife and myself. I mean, 16, that's more than a baseball team. Were they all natural birth? Do you have any foster kids? Some were adopted?
All biological and one set of twins. So my oldest is 22, and then my youngest is 3 weeks old. We had little Monica 3 weeks ago, and actually,
wow.
A little gray hair here, somewhere there, shows that I am now a grandfather. So my daughter, my 21-year-old, had a baby 3 months ago, and my son is having a baby in like a week or two. So,
wow.
Yeah, my wife and I, it wasn't so weird for me to be a granddad, but looking at my beautiful young wife it's weird that you're a grandma. That's the weird thing, even more so than having 16 kids for me. So.
Well, your child having a child, and you've got a 3-week-old, so that 3-week-old will be an uncle or aunt, like to, you know.
That's right. That's right. Little Aunt Monica was born Aunt Monica. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, let me ask you something, Conor. In today's society, today's economy, how can you simply afford to raise 16 kids?
Well, you know, there's the old saying, cheaper by a dozen, you know, by the dozen. But, you know, the reality is that, you know, you have to take each child individually and assess before you have another, what's God's plan here? You know, so psychologically, emotionally, physically, financially, those are questions that you have to ask before you have more kids. And so we've always asked that one kid at a time. We never had a goal to have a certain amount of kids. But in terms of the money, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's been some like really horrific reports that I have serious problems with about how much it costs to raise kids in today's world. And I think that's coming from a very kind of globalist, far-leaning left agenda saying you can't afford kids because it costs so much to raise them. And I just know that that's just false on so many levels. Yeah, kids are expensive. I'm not saying they're not, but the typical family can make some sacrifices, can live a life more conducive to a larger family, and they make it work. I just know too many people living off a household income of even $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 and having multiple kids. We've been very blessed financially. I've been successful at business, so I'm not trying to say that we've had to be that simple. I used to have to be that simple before my businesses took off, but never, I shouldn't say never, very rarely is money itself in our very abundant world and lifestyle the legitimate excuse to not have more children. I think there's a lot of other reasons that somebody might have to slow down, but I haven't met too many people who are just too dirt poor to have another child made in the image and likeness of God.
Hey, but wait till all those kids want to go to college or university. Then you'll see how expensive it can be.
It can be. I got a few that have been through already. I get an idea of it, yeah.
Are you guys planning on having more children, or 16 the cutoff point?
No, there's no cutoff point. We'll just see what's in store for my wife and God's plan, and so we take it again one at a time. So right now we try to be the best we can for 16, just like we tried to be the best for 1. Who knows? If we have another one, I'll come back on the show in a couple of years and tell you about it.
Now, what are some of the other challenges, Conor, when raising that many children? Do you find that maybe some of the older kids are helping to raise some of the younger kids?
Oh, yeah. So all my analogies in this new business I have, Well-Ordered Family, is about how to apply business principles to family life. So I like to call my teenagers mid-level management. So first of all, you don't raise 16 kids. Again, 4 of my kids have grown and gone. I mean, they're in college or they're out of college, having their own families. So you don't actually have to fit 16 kids into a car. It's not like that. But the challenges are, whether it's 16 or 2 or 1 even, I think the challenges are in today's world managing the stress and anxiety. There is way too many expectations on a modern parent because they think, well, the kids have to play every sport. They have to be musicians. They have to be on the honor roll. Mom and dad have to work out and be in great shape, and all of these things. And everybody has to have the right cars, the right clothes, the right vacation. That's overwhelming. But that's keeping up with the Joneses. That's a cultural phenomenon. And one of my missions, Hal, is to help families show, no, you are the architect of your family. Mom and dad, you have to be visionaries of your family, just like you have visionaries or a CEO at business. You have to decide, what are the ultimate goals? What's the culture our family's going to grow up in? What is the environment that we're going to construct, like the architect, to build our community the way we want it? And that means making decisions to cut things away and to embrace other things. So the challenge for me is, as every other viewer you have here, constructing your environment so the stress and anxiety of the modern world does not control you, but you control your environment, because your kids deserve it.
So how do you really maintain order in your household, Connor, and still find time for you and Ashley?
That's a great question. So yeah, Ashley and I, number one, that's first. God's first, spouse is second, kids are third. And I think you have to keep that priority in line. And when I put my wife first, then my kids benefit from it tremendously. But we have to have just like in business, how to really stay on the same page, you have to first know what your vision is. What is your mission statement at work? What's your vision statement at work? So I help people craft their vision statement or their mission statement for their family. We choose core values. We choose a number of different business tools like strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And so we're able to look and say, we agree, Ashley and I, on the big picture goals. Like, we know where we're trying to go, just like my executive team here knows where it's trying to go in the business. So when conflict and stress arises, we're able to double down and say, we know where we're going, so we're going to get through this little shortcoming or this little difficulty together as a united team. And so all of my kids and my wife, we're one big team doing it, and I create tools to help people do that so the little things don't throw you off track too much.
Now, in your book, Connor, you write about 4 types of family gatherings. Can you explain what these involve and why you see them as so important?
Absolutely. So, the greatest business mind of our time is a guy named Jim Collins, and he wrote probably the best-selling book of all time called Good to Great. And he said something beautiful. He said, successful companies is 1% vision, 99% alignment around the vision. So family meetings are all about staying on the same page. So people say, how do you stay on the same page? I say, well, first, literally have a page, have a piece of paper. And so we have a meeting cadence. So number one, my family has a weekly meeting. I call it a huddle, just like a football team gets together and has a quick huddle. We have a weekly huddle on Sunday nights, just logistics. It's the only time how you'll hear me tell all my kids, get your cell phones out. I want to see everybody with their cell phones, because we're looking at calendars. We're looking at, what do you have this week? What practices, what social events? So that stays on the same page, a little prayers mixed in there. And I have an agenda that's 10 minutes long that help you knock this out real quick. So that's a weekly agenda to just make sure that you're all on the same page. In that meeting, how we also talk about, what are the upcoming stressors? Mom, dad, what are these things this week that might be stressing you out? What are you afraid of? And also, what are the opportunities, these things that we can reach out and grab? So that's an example of how it's logistical, but it's also a spiritual or psychological meeting. And you knock it out real quick, so it's not over the top and no one resents it, or it's not time for discipline. It's just a logistical meeting. But I also have a quarterly meeting, an annual meeting, and I also have a meeting that's just for mom and dad, where it's a real heart-to-heart, it's a really emotional meeting. And I have agendas for these to just kind of make it easy for you to follow. And it feels a little corny sometimes, having an agenda for your family meeting, but actually it desensitizes you from the weirdness, and it helps you embrace it, and you just follow the agenda, and it makes it so much smoother. We need good meetings, whether we're in athletics, we call that practice. We need good meetings at business. We need good meetings in the family, because we're a group of people trying to accomplish a goal together.
It's funny, circling back to the football reference and the huddling there, I'm just picturing that you've got enough kids to form a football team, so offense and defense, and that's what's great about it. Connor, in today's crazy society, how can parents really safeguard their children while also nurturing their spiritual growth and enabling to do what's right even while facing peer pressure?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I would say how that the biggest, most obvious threat, I would say, we have urgent threats like, oh, the kid's running out into the road. That's an urgent threat. But you also have important threats like, long-term chastity or purity or whatever like that. But there's an urgent threat and an important threat that are attacking the family right now, especially kids, and it's these darn cell phones. It's the media, it's the digital life, video games, social media, everything like that. So what I tell parents is I created a tool called the Digital Policy Builder. And what I have found, Hal, is that parents, of course, want to protect their children from the internet, from the negative influences out there. And I'm not saying the internet's bad. It's not. We're on it right now. Thank God for this, or else I wouldn't be here. But what I'm saying is you have to be absolutely perfectly clear with your kid what the expectations and rules are. Most conflict with especially teenagers does not come from the teenager disagreeing with mom or dad about the rules are. It actually comes from a misunderstanding of what the rule is precisely. And I could give many examples of that some other time, but what kids need is very precise rules. And I think it helps if mom and dad write down those rules on this digital policy that I have, because then it says, who can you communicate with? When can you communicate with them? On what devices, what platforms, et cetera, et cetera. That's what kids need today. And mom and dad need to take it real serious, because guess what? If you don't have a clear policy, then guess what? You actually have a policy, and it is entrust your kids to the internet. And I think you love your kids more than to just entrust them to that. So get your pen and get your paper and write this down, and your kids will appreciate the clarity.
As a parent myself, I found that it was very important to implement structure for my wife and I, and for our family, for our kids, and just to really show where the boundaries were, right? To play within those boundaries. Now, Connor, you write about something you call Key Family Process, KFP for parents. What is it exactly, and why is it so important?
Yeah, so in a business, you have key processes, and I believe that it's important for a business to write down what are the key processes to make my business work. Maybe it's what's my marketing process to capture a new email? How do I take care of the accounting process? How do I do customer service? How do I ship a product out to you at your house? There's key processes, business processes. Well, so I took that same idea and applied it to family. So what are the processes in a family life? Well, it might be like getting the dishes done. It might be getting the laundry done. It might be the family budget, making sure that you're paying down debt at a certain rate. It might be the homework, like getting a certain GPA with your kids, make sure they get good grades. It might be yard work. So there are certain key family processes which deserve to be documented so that the responsible party knows exactly what they're expected to do, when they're expected to do it, how they're expected to do it. Something as simple as a chore chart. Like in my house, man, getting the dishes and the laundry done, it's hard. It's hard. There's just so much. It's like a nuclear bomb goes off in my house every day and you have to clean. And so that's a major part of our house. So documenting precisely what the expectations are. And I think it's good to have a master list of all the different processes that mom and dad kind of want to oversee. Otherwise, conflict erupts because the expectations aren't precisely clear.
I'm glad you brought that up, Connor. Let's chit-chat a bit about conflict here. It's inevitable in any family. How can parents resolve conflict while acknowledging and understanding both their own feelings and the feelings of others?
I think the way to handle most conflict, Hal, is recognizing the person that God put into your family versus the person you wish was in your family. And so in business, we've really learned in business, corporate America over the last 30 years has really learned the value of assessment tests. We take a lot of assessment tests to see what is this person's strengths and weaknesses and to build on their strengths rather than trying to fix all their weaknesses. That's what they used to do way back when. Now we've learned that, hey, find out what this girl or guy's good at and build on that. And can you put them in a position to where they thrive? And then you're not fighting an uphill battle all the time. And there's all kinds of assessments and they're fun. People love taking them. So I've shown in my book a number of assessment tests that you can use for your family. And when you do those, the person that God made naturally is coming out at you. It's one of the things I've learned. Even this 3-week-old baby, Hal, I'm already seeing a personality take shape. I didn't create that personality through the environment. This is written into her DNA, and so it's just there, put there by God. So when you do these assessment tests and really continually focus on what the natural temperament and personality of this kid is, it cuts down on the fighting and the bickering and the resentment, because you see they're wired this way. Now, what do I do about that? How do I handle it? How do I communicate to them? That's where, you have to start fleshing that out. But one size does not fit all. And when you appreciate the differences of each personality in your family, a lot of the stress goes away.
And you believe that it's key for families to learn how to really solve problems together. Why is that so important? How do we go about doing that?
Yeah, just like you do it in a business. I mean, the CEO does not go off into his office with his pad of paper and figure out everything. No, he brings in the team to kind of work through problems. So we have a number of decision-making tools and problem-solving tools that we've put into this book for families to use. So if it's something as simple like my wife and I were trying to figure out what kind of goat to buy recently, we bought pregnant goats. We had a bunch of goats. We needed to buy some pregnant goats so the kids could watch the miracle of birth and sell the little baby goats. So it's a funny little thing, but we were trying to decide between 3 or 4 options. So I pulled out one of my tools and we used the tool, and the kids sat there and helped us figure out which pregnant goat did we want to buy. And it sounds like a goofy situation, but if you have to buy a car, it can be very stressful. If you have to do an addition to your house or renovate something, very stressful. I have tools there where the whole family can contribute to analyzing the situation. What's the financial impact, the emotional impact? How do you quantify the psychological components of this? How do you quantify the time needed to work on these things? You start getting the kids, and you'd be surprised how young they can contribute. Even a 6, 7, 8-year-old can really contribute to these things because they have a sense of mom and dad's stress level that sometimes we don't even have. So when you put these things on paper and use my decision-making tools and problem-solving tools, it really kind of helps the team work together to solve the problem, as opposed to mom and dad just doing it on their own.
Connor Gallagher is the father of 16 children, that's right, 16 kids, and author of Well Ordered Family, which is available at wellorderedfamily.com. Connor, thanks so much for joining us today from Charlotte, North Carolina.
It was a pleasure. I'm humbled to be here. Thanks so much.
Curling is a unique sport, sometimes described as a cross between shuffleboard and checkers, and of course, all taking place on a sheet of ice. Curling rinks are ubiquitous across Canada, and here in Lethbridge, it is no different. To chat more about curling today, we are joined by Kirk Mearns, the General Manager for the Lethbridge Curling Club. Great to have you with us today, Kirk.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, I love chatting about, and playing curling. It's you and I were just chatting before we got started that I need to get signed up for the curling league in my community. Can you share with us a little bit of the history of the Lethbridge Curling Club?
Yeah, the Lethbridge Curling Club has been around a long time. It's over 125 years. It started as a lot of winter sports do, outdoors on frozen ponds and wherever ice could be formed. We moved indoors in the early 1900s, when they started to figure out sort of they could make ice indoors, but curling really came into its own in the 50s when artificial ice was developed and we could start to really move indoors and make ice when we wanted it, and make it the way we wanted to. So the Lethbridge Curling Club was at the old Civic Center since 1950, so for 66 years. We've been in the community a long time.
That's great. And so what have been some of the major bonspiels that have been here in Lethbridge?
Lethbridge has been really lucky. We've hosted all of the big major national bonspiels. We've had the Scotties a couple of times, World Men's, World Women's. We had the Briar just a couple of years ago, which was fantastic. The club has hosted the World Seniors, the World Mixed Doubles. We've been very lucky to host pretty much all of the major curling events.
Wow, that's great. So what is it about the sport of curling that you think really draws people in?
I think it's something that you can do from 9 to 90. It's easy to learn and impossible to master. Um, we we find it's a sense of community. People, you get together, it's fun. Um, they can enjoy the social aspect of it. And I think it boils down to it's an open sport where people can learn. It's not expensive. It's easy to get in, and curling clubs are just welcoming places.
Right. And once again, circling back to you and I chatting briefly before we got started, there is that it's an iconic Canadian thing, the smell of the rink. And I know for myself, thinking of those childhood Saturday nights or something, leaving the farm to go to the curling club. Can you talk a little bit about that community building aspect of curling?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that hasn't changed. We're an activity where if mom and dad want to come and curl on a Saturday afternoon in one of our leagues or Saturday night, bring the kids, let them run around and have some fun and sit down and have a pop and some French fries while mom and dad are curling. Chance to get them involved. It's a real family activity and very, like I say, open, welcoming. We're a sport that wants to include everybody, wants to continue to grow.
Yeah. Now, speaking about our Lethbridge curling facility specifically, how does that compare with other facilities in the province?
We're one of the brand newest, if not the newest. We're only 8 years old. We were lucky to work with the city and get a new curling club built when we built the Cavendish Center here on the west side. We're 10 sheets. We are one of the largest. There are only a couple of 10-sheeters in Alberta right now. We're brand new. We have state-of-the-art equipment, state-of-the-art ice making plant, and a wonderful viewing area open to everybody. So it's a brand new facility that is as good as there is in Alberta right now.
Wow, that sounds great. So how many members do you currently have in the club?
We have about 600 full-time members. We have we average around 60 juniors in our program. We have a couple of what we would call leagues that just come in and rent. So we have over 1,000 people curling per week in the club in various times. We start curling at 10 in the morning and people are curling at 10 at night.
Wow. That's a significant activity and group of people if you have 1,000 people per week during the season.
Yeah, we're one of the busiest clubs in Alberta for sure.
Wow. And so how does the Lethbridge Curling Club serve the local seniors?
We have, that's fantastic. We have our daytime senior league that runs Tuesday to Friday. It's a really easy league to get into. It runs in very short, sort of little 5-week groups. We put people together on teams. If you don't have a team, you just show up, and we put you together with all of our other seniors. Seniors are a big part of our club, and they spend a significant amount of time here during the day, just curling and making friends and spending time.
Yeah, that community aspect of curling is enormous. Now, how about the other end of the age spectrum, those students? Are there school clubs or let's say phys ed classes that go curling?
Yeah, we have our own junior program that runs on Wednesdays, and that's for kids 9 to 15. We host a high school league. The high schools come in Monday and Tuesday, and all the high schools get together and they come in. Very significant, probably the biggest in the province again. Gym classes book our during the school year. We have probably 8 or 10 different schools that bring their gym classes in for an hour at a time. And we have some instructors that pop out there and help out the teachers because a lot of times they don't know how to curl either. And it's all all a part of how busy we are and how connected to the community we are.
Right. Now, just to stick with that younger generation for a moment, do you see that there is that interest from the younger generation to be in leagues?
There is, and it's curling has sort of fills that gap. There's a lot of kids that just aren't going to play hockey. They're not going to play soccer or whatever it is. But during the school year, they can curl. Anybody can come out. Like I say, we can teach anybody how to curl. It's, nobody sits out. If you come out, you play. There's no sitting on the sidelines. There's no, 6 a.m. practices in the morning, games at 9 o'clock at night. Parents love bringing their kids to curling because they know when it is every week, and their kids have a great time playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly have fond memories from my youth of throwing the rocks down the sheets. Yeah. And
as do I, but mine was a little bit longer ago than yours.
Well, they're still locked in there, and
right
I know I would probably be remiss not to mention my high school friend Steve Fisher. His family was all over the sheets of ice there in and around Medicine Hat. But now, what about provincial winning teams or maybe future Olympians that might be calling Lethbridge home?
Yeah, we've had some success with some of our competitive curlers, our competitive juniors coming out of here. Kaylee Shannon, the Whitmire brothers. They're like on the verge now of moving to that next elite level, and you never know. You never know sort of how a team gets put together or how it goes. Of course, we have the Scheidegger family with Casey and Jesse. Casey took a bit of step back to start her family. And I'm pretty sure she'll be back into it right away. And Jesse's still curling at a high competitive level. So, the curling, the Olympic trials are this November. So you never know who might get up there and get on a hot streak, and we'll see them on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always great to watch. Now, I wanted to ask you about the cost to join and play in a league.
Yeah, it's curling very reasonable. To be a member of our club, right? Just to be a member and to access practice ice and come in is only $70 a year to be a member of Lethbridge Curling Club. Our main weekday leagues, our big leagues, our big adult leagues, about $380 for the whole season to play. Kids play for less than half of that. Our seniors play for less than that. So for around $400 or less, you can curl for a full season, and you get access to as much practice ice as you want, and instruction, and use of our lounge and all of our other facilities.
Right. Well, that sounds very reasonable for what a person's going to get out of it, and especially the cost of entertainment these days. It's great to be physically active and be out on the sheets of ice. Now, I wanted to ask you, we all probably remember the old straw brooms. So if somebody wants to get into this, what are they looking at as far as equipment costs go?
To just get started, the club will loan you, all you need is a pair of sneakers and a pair of gloves. And if you come out to learn how to curl, we've got some learn to curls. We have brooms you can borrow. We've got sliders that you can slide on. We have all the stuff that you can borrow. So basically, like I say, all you need is a pair of clean runners and a pair of gloves, and you can learn. And even after that, as you start to progress through, it's not that expensive. A broom is $100, and a pair of shoes is $150, and they last for 4 seasons, type of thing. So it's a very inexpensive sport. As you get more competitive, of course, the costs go up. But yeah, starting in curling is as inexpensive as you can get.
Good. Well, hopefully some of the people who are watching this that are looking for something to do through the winter would reach out to the Lethbridge Curling Club.
I hope so. We have our Learn to Curls at September 25th and 26th. We'll get that out on our social media channels and in our advertising and let people know. And we welcome everybody. If you've never curled before in your life, doesn't really matter. Come on in, and we'll teach you how to curl.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap up, speaking of that person that's never curled before and is thinking of something to do, what would be your sage advice to them?
Come on down and try it. It can't hurt to try it. We have our instructors are so good. They're so patient. They will show everybody. You don't have to be super athletic to learn how to curl. And it's the old thing. You got to feel, a little bit of bad knees, something. We've got devices to help you, get the rock down the ice, help you sweep, help you get it all done. But I think my advice is just try. Just come on out and try it.
Yeah, because it's not that physically demanding of a sport, is it?
At the beginning level, no, it's not. Right? Once we teach you how to sweep and you learn how to do that, you'll want to get a little bit better and a little bit more exertion. And of course, the pros at the top level is as physically demanding as any sport. But yeah, to get started, no, you can, we can. It's a recreation at the beginning.
Yes.
Right. It just turns into a sport as it goes along.
Yeah. Now, here's kind of an off-the-wall topic, or question, I should say. So how heavy are the curling stones? We don't have to lift them, thankfully. We can slide them around, but what does one of those things weigh?
They are 40 pounds.
Okay. Well, not bad.
They're 40 pounds worth of granite. So they slide along. We got to push them about 145 feet down the ice.
Yep.
Yeah.
And smooth as silk most of the time.
Smooth as silk. The running band on the bottom touches about 1/8 of an inch of the rock is riding on the ice. And the technology around pebbling and turning it and curling it it's state of the art now. So it's smooth. It smoothly roll. It just slides down there.
Totally. And I think I was told once when I was much younger, if you fall, we'll just push you along too, and you can end up in the house. But
right, hopefully you bounce back up quick enough before we have to slide you along.
Yeah, that's right. So when this new season, well, I guess the new season is beginning, how do people register to participate in the club?
We have an online registration system through our website at lethbridgecurlingclub.com. Or once the office is open, you can come on in and talk to us, and we can register you here. We can give you a tour of the facilities and just give you a whole overview of what you can expect. So online, in person.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So you talked about the Learn to Curl. Are there any other events that are going to be coming up as we get closer to November, December?
We're hosting, one of the things that we did mention is in February this year, the Lethbridge Curling Club is hosting the University and College Canadian Championships in our club. Yeah, the U Sports and the CCAA curling championships. So that's a big deal. We'll have 32 teams from across Canada of university and college students here curling with opportunity to go to the Worlds. So it's a big deal. They'll be here for a week.
Wow, that's exciting. That is a big deal.
It is.
So that's February 2025.
Correct.
Kirk, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. I love talking about curling.
Yeah, me too. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
That was Kirk Mearns. He is the general manager for the Lethbridge Curling Club, and you can find more about them at www.lethbridgecurlingclub.com. For all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Michael Clausen. Thanks for watching.